They told you the system would always grow. They told you the dream was guaranteed. But the truth is, the boomer wealth boom bankrupted the country. What looked like prosperity was really debt. What looked like growth was really consumption. And what looked like stability was really an illusion. The lie began in the post-war years. America dominated the world economy. Factories were running. Jobs were plentiful. The dollar was king. The boomer generation grew up its golden age. They believed it would never end. And they built their entire wealth model on that assumption. Buy a house, hold it forever. Buy stocks, hold them forever. Work a job for 40 years. Collect a pension. Retire in comfort. It worked for them in the short run. But it left a bill that their children and grandchildren are paying today. Housing was the first weapon. Boomers bought cheap homes in the 70s and 80s. They watched values explode as inflation and easy credit poured fuel on the fire. Suddenly, they weren't just homeowners. They were paper millionaires. But that wealth wasn't real. It was borrowed from the future. It was fueled by debt, not production. And every dollar of wealth in their rising home values meant higher prices for the next generation. Stocks told the same story. Boomers bought in during the great bull runs of the 80s and 90s. They saw their 401ks triple, quadruple, even more. They believed the market always goes up. But those gains were built on debt, outsourcing, and money printing. Corporate profits grew by sending jobs overseas. Government debt grew by trillions. The Fed cut rates lower and lower until money had no cost. Boomers thought it was wealth. But it was just leverage stacked on leverage. And when the crashes came, 2000, 2008, the system had to be bailed out with more debt. Debt that millennials and Gen Z are chained to now. Then came Social Security and Medicare. These programs were sold as safety nets, but boomers treated them as guarantees. They paid in when the population was growing. They took out when the math no longer worked. Now the trust funds are empty. The promises are broken. And the system is unsustainable. For decades, politicians bought votes by expanding benefits. They never fixed the math. They just borrowed more money. And boomers cheered because they got the checks. Who pays now? The younger workers. They fund benefits they'll never see. They pay taxes for debts they didn't create. And they face a retirement that won't exist. The boomer wealth story was consumption disguised as prosperity. New cars every few years. McMansions built on cheap mortgages. Credit cards maxed out for vacations and gadgets. A lifestyle that felt rich, but was financed by credit that never got repaid. America's debt exploded from under $1 trillion to over $30 trillion. That is the boomer legacy. A mountain of IOUs stamped wealth. Meanwhile, the culture told you this was normal. Boomers said, work hard. Go to college. Buy a home. Invest in the market. Retire rich. But college costs exploded. Homes became unaffordable. Markets became casinos. Retirement became a fantasy. Because the game had changed. The same system that made boomers rich made everyone after them broke. Here's the harsh truth. The boomer wealth boom was not skill. It was timing. They were born into the greatest economic expansion in history. They benefited from cheap assets, cheap education, and global dominance. Then they pulled the ladder up behind them. They voted for policies that kept their wealth inflated. Low interest rates, easy credit, money printing, bailouts, deficits. Every one of those policies made their balance sheets look better. But every one of those policies hollowed out America's future. Now the bill is due. The dollar is weak. The debt is unpayable. The younger generations are locked out of home ownership. Retirement is collapsing. And the middle class is disappearing. The boomer wealth lie bankrupted America. It told us that paper gains were prosperity. It told us that debt was wealth. It told us that endless consumption was sustainable. And it left the country weaker than ever. So what do you do with this truth? You stop believing in the old dream. You stop waiting for a system that won't save you. You stop following advice from a generation that cashed out and left you the bill. Instead, you build new wealth strategies. You buy assets that cash flow today. You create income streams that don't depend on government promises. You build businesses, digital products, and skills that can't be inflated away. You stop playing defense and start playing offense. Because the old playbook is dead. The boomer wealth model is broken. And the system they built is collapsing under its own weight. History is clear. Every empire falls when it spends more than it produces. Every empire collapses when debt replaces discipline. And every empire ends when its citizens believe lies about wealth. America is not immune. But you are not powerless. The truth can free you. If you stop waiting. If you stop hoping the old promises will be kept. If you stop pretending the system is fair. The boomer wealth lie is over. It bankrupted the nation. But it doesn't have to bankrupt you if you act now. If you see clearly. If you build outside the broken model. Wealth is still possible. Freedom is still possible. But not by repeating the past. Not by trusting the system. And not by following the lies that got us here. The lie has been exposed. The only question left is what you will do with it.